Hello, my friends. Before we start, remember to like, comment, and subscribe for more horror content. I've been driving trucks for over 20 years, and I've seen my fair share of weird stuff on the road. Broken headlights in the middle of nowhere, people waving at me who vanish before I can get a second look, strange fogs that roll in and disappear just as fast. I thought I'd seen it all until this run. I was hauling a refrigerated load from Ohio to Montana, just another long night drive with nothing but the hum of the engine in my thoughts. It was late November, and the roads were slick from a light snow that hadn't fully melted. I had been driving for hours, my eyes heavy behind the windshield, and I was glad for the quiet. The call had come in last minute. Pick up a container from the old warehouse on Route 117. Priority shipment. Out by midnight. Nothing unusual there, except for the address. It wasn't exactly a warehouse anymore. The place had been abandoned for years, or so the GPS and the local maps told me. I didn't think much of it. Sometimes clients used old addresses to confuse GPS tracking. I arrived at the lot just before midnight. The building was a hulking structure, windows dark and broken, the kind of place that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up. A single light flickered near the entrance, and I squinted through the windshield. There was no one there. No forklifts, no staff. I checked the paperwork. Everything was legitimate, or so it seemed. I got out, keys jingling, my breath puffing in the freezing air. The door to the warehouse groaned as I pushed it open. Inside, the smell hit me first. Stale, moldy, something metallic underneath. Pallets were stacked haphazardly, dust thick as snow. I shouldn't have been surprised, but something about it felt wrong. I walked toward the container I was supposed to load. It was an old refrigerated unit, the kind that looked like it had been sitting unused for decades. I grabbed the handle, and it was icy cold under my gloves. That's when I noticed something moving inside the glass panel on the door. Shadows, flickering, almost like they were alive. I shook my head. My mind was playing tricks on me. The doors opened smoothly, though I had expected a struggle. Inside, the container was empty, except for a small crate in the middle. Strange, considering the shipment paperwork said it should be full. I bent down to inspect it, and that's when I heard it. A faint scratching. I froze. Scratching, soft like fingernails on wood, coming from inside the crate. My heart skipped. Must be rats, I muttered to myself. But when I looked closer, there were no signs of rodents, no gnawed edges, nothing. The crate was perfectly sealed, except for a small gap at the top. Curiosity, or maybe stupidity, got the better of me. I pried it open. Nothing. Just darkness. Then the scratching stopped. I leaned closer, peering into the void, and then I saw them. Eyes, black, reflective, staring at me from the depths. Too many eyes, hundreds of them. They blinked all at once, and a voice, thin, whispering, not quite human, cut through the silence. Drive, don't stop. I stumbled back, heart pounding, dropping my flashlight. My knees almost buckled. There was no one there, but the whisper followed me, growing louder. It came from the crate, the warehouse, everywhere and nowhere, all at once. I slammed the crate shut, back toward my truck, fumbling with the keys. My hands shook so badly, I dropped them once, twice. Finally, the engine roared to life. I pulled out, trying to shake the unease, telling myself it was just a dream, a hallucination brought on by fatigue. The road was empty, nothing but the sound of tires on asphalt and the occasional flash of a deer in the headlights. But then, I started noticing things. Shadows at the edge of the road, too quick, darting, always just out of the corner of my eye. And the GPS, normally silent at this hour, blared a warning. Route unsafe. Rerouting. I frowned. That was new. I didn't remember this stretch of road being on the map. It twisted, winding through forest I hadn't noticed before, snow piling higher on the shoulders. The radio crackled, static at first, then a voice, distorted and ragged. Drive, don't stop. I slammed my hand against the dial. Nothing. static. But the feeling didn't leave me. I could feel eyes on me, inside the cab, out of the cab. I tried shaking it off. I'm a trucker. I've hauled through worse weather, worse roads. Keep moving, keep going. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. I couldn't tell. Time lost all meaning. Every so often, I would catch movement in the mirrors, figures in the snow, faceless, long-limbed, standing perfectly still, then gone when I blinked. I tried to call dispatch, tried to radio anyone, but there was no signal. It was like the forest swallowed everything. Then the truck shook, hard, tires screeching. I swerved. There was a figure on the road. No, figures, dozens of them running alongside me, keeping pace. Their eyes, those same black hollow eyes, glimmered in the headlights. The crate in the back shifted. I tried to ignore it, but it rattled violently, as if something inside was clawing to get out. I screamed, slammed my foot on the gas. The figures kept pace, and then I saw it. The road ended. Cliff edge, snow covered the drop, but I knew it was there. Panic clawed at me. I had nowhere to go. I slammed the brakes, but the truck didn't slow. It was like driving on ice, except worse. My heart hammered. Then the crate slammed forward in the back of the truck, loud, deafening. I hit the horn, panicked, and the sound echoed like a gunshot in the night. And I heard it again. That voice, now screaming, "Drive, drive, or we take you." The headlights flickered. The truck jerked violently, and for a brief second, I saw it. A figure standing at the cliff's edge, impossibly tall, arms reaching toward me. Its face was a hollow void, a darkness deeper than night itself. Then, it stepped aside. The figures along the road dissolved into mist. The brakes caught. I skidded to a stop just short of the drop. My hands shook uncontrollably. I sat there for what felt like hours, staring at the crate. It was quiet now, empty, no sound, just the hum of the engine. I didn't know what to do. Turn around? Go back? The GPS offered no guidance. The radio had fallen silent, but the whisper lingered, just beneath the edge of hearing. Keep driving. We are always behind. I drove until the sun rose. Snow turned to rain. I don't remember how many hours, days maybe, passed. Everything around me felt wrong. Trees twisted in ways they shouldn't, shadows longer than logic would allow, the sky a dull gray even as morning came. Eventually, I found a gas station, the first signs of civilization in what felt like forever. I stumbled out, hands shaking, crate still in the back. I tried to explain to the clerk what happened. He looked at me like I was insane, called the police for me. But when they came, there was nothing in the truck. No crate, no shipment, just the truck, perfectly intact, and me, losing my mind. Since then, I've tried to go back to trucking, but every night I hear whispers, soft scratching, shadows flickering just outside my windows. And sometimes, when I drive, I swear I see eyes in the back of the truck, staring at me, watching, waiting. I haven't stopped driving. I can't. Because the last thing that crate whispered to me before disappearing forever was the truth I can't escape. Drive, or we will come for you. And I don't know if I ever will stop. I've been hauling freight for nearly 15 years. Cross-country routes, all hours of the night, endless stretches of asphalt under headlights, roads that twist and disappear into darkness. I thought I knew the highways like the back of my hand. But this night was different. Something went wrong, something I can't explain, and it has haunted me ever since. It started with a last-minute dispatch. The call came through just after dinner. Pick up at Route 62, mile marker 119. High priority shipment, delivery needed by dawn. Normally, I'd shrug off a late-night pickup, but the dispatcher sounded urgent, almost tense. I chalked it up to him having a bad night. The sky was overcast when I arrived, the kind of gray that swallows light. The lot was deserted. Gravel crunched under my boots as I walked toward the trailer. The place looked abandoned, rusted signs swinging in the wind, boarded up windows. Not the kind of place you trust with a high-priority shipment. but the paperwork checked out, so I shrugged and moved on. The trailer itself was strange. It was an old refrigerated unit, dented in corners and smelling faintly of rot despite being sealed. There was no forklift, no staff, just me and the trailer. I hooked it to my truck and climbed into the cab, eager to leave the eerie lot behind. As soon as I started down the highway, I noticed something off. The GPS, normally my guide, was glitching. Route 62 on the screen twisted in ways that didn't match the road ahead. Every turn I made seemed to loop me back to the same stretch of asphalt, mile marker signs passing by faster than they should. My hands tightened on the steering wheel, heart racing, but I chalked it up to fatigue. Hours passed, or maybe it was minutes. Time felt wrong. The highway was empty, unnaturally empty. Fog rolled in thick and fast, curling around the truck like fingers. That's when I heard it, a whisper, faint at first, coming from the trailer. "Drive. Don't stop." I froze, hand on the horn. Silence. My eyes darted to the mirrors. Nothing. Maybe fatigue, maybe wind playing tricks. I shook my head and pressed on. Then the shadows appeared. At first I thought they were trees swaying in the fog, but they moved against the flow of the wind, impossibly fast. Figures, humanoid but wrong, limbs too long, heads tilting at unnatural angles. They stayed just at the edge of visibility, disappearing whenever I tried to focus on them. My breath came in quick, shallow bursts. I tried calling dispatch, tried radioing other trucks, no signal. My phone died despite being fully charged. The fog thickened and the headlights barely cut through it. I gripped the wheel tighter, glancing at the trailer. It rattled slightly, though the load was supposed to be secure. Then came the scratching. Soft, persistent, like fingernails on metal, from inside the trailer. My stomach dropped. I pulled over to the shoulder, but the sound didn't stop. I jumped out, gloves on, flashlight in hand. The gravel crunched underfoot as I approached the trailer door. The metal shuddered under my hand as I unlatched it. Inside, nothing. Just darkness. But I knew it wasn't empty. I could feel it. That whisper returned, louder this time, all around me. "Drive, or we will come for you." I slammed the door shut, fumbling for the keys. Back in the cab, I tried to start the truck. The engine turned over, sluggish, coughing. Finally, it roared to life, and I peeled back onto the road. My headlights caught movement in the fog, figures darting, keeping pace with the truck, though their legs seemed to glide, not touch the asphalt. Panic clawed at me. I pressed the gas, and the road stretched endlessly, twisting in impossible angles. The sky darkened unnaturally, though the time should have been late morning. I tried to remember the last mile marker I passed. It was gone, erased, replaced by a sign that read nothing but static symbols. Then the crate shifted inside the trailer, loud, violent, as if something was pounding from within. I slammed my foot on the brake. The truck skidded but didn't stop. Fog clung to the tires like a viscous liquid. Shadows pressed at the mirrors, pressing in. "Drive, don't stop, or join us." The voice was everywhere and nowhere. I couldn't think, couldn't reason. I slammed my hands against the steering wheel. The fog cleared for a moment, and I saw the road edge, cliffside drop, sheer and impossible, snow-covered. I should have been dead already. But a figure stepped onto the highway, impossibly tall, faceless, limbs like twisted branches. It didn't move toward me. It just waited. The trailer slammed again. The whispering grew louder. My hands shook uncontrollably. I swerved, narrowly missing the cliff edge. Then, the figure at the edge blinked. Or maybe it wasn't blinking. Darkness, hollow, deep, reaching toward me. I screamed. My foot hit the gas. The truck lurched forward. The shadows along the road vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The crate was still, silent, as if nothing had happened. I didn't stop until the fog lifted, sun breaking through weak clouds, and the first signs of civilization appeared. Gas station lights, a diner, telephone poles. I pulled over, hands trembling, sweat freezing on my face. I opened the trailer. Empty, no sign of the crate, no shipment, nothing but cold metal and my racing heart. The police, the dispatcher, no one believed me. They said my truck was fine, the load intact. No crate, no whispers, no shadows. Since that night, I've avoided highways at night. But sometimes, when I'm alone, I swear I can hear it. Soft scratching, faint whispers, shadows at the edges of my vision, and in my dreams I'm back on that endless highway, the fog curling around the cab, the crate rattling in the back. And I know, deep down, that one night I won't be able to stop driving. Because the last thing that voice whispered before disappearing forever was the truth I cannot escape. Drive, or we will come for you. I've never stopped since, and I never will. I've been driving trucks for almost 20 years, and I've always prided myself on keeping my cool behind the wheel. Night runs are my favorite. Quiet highways, the hum of the engine, nothing but the road ahead. But there's a night I'll never forget. A night where the familiar became something unrecognizable. And I realized that some roads you shouldn't drive. It started like any other night. I was hauling a refrigerated shipment from Indiana to North Dakota, a straight shot through empty stretches of interstate, miles of nothing but trees and black asphalt. My dispatcher had called late in the afternoon, voice clipped, urgent. Pickups at the old Miller lot, Route 82, midnight, sharp, priority load, don't be late. I raised an eyebrow. I'd been down that route plenty of times. The Miller lot had been abandoned for years, trucks rusted in the gravel, weeds growing through the cracks, but the paperwork checked out. I shrugged, thinking maybe the company was still using it for temporary storage. Midnight wasn't far off, and I liked the long drive. The sky was an inky black when I arrived, moonless. Only my headlights illuminated the lot, reflecting off the frost-coated gravel. I parked beside the trailer, keys in hand, and stepped out. The air smelled like decay and metal, cold enough to sting my lungs. No one was there, not a single worker, not a single light except for a flickering bulb above the lot's entrance. I walked to the trailer, a refrigerated unit that looked newer than the lot itself. Smooth metal, clean hinges, strangely out of place. As I opened it, the freezer door groaned like it had a voice of its own. Inside, a single crate sat in the center, heavy-looking, sealed tight. I squinted through the faint light and noticed scratches along the wood. Fresh scratches. I shrugged, muttering to myself, probably rats. But as I stepped back, I thought I saw movement inside the crate, like a shadow shifting. I blinked. Nothing. I shook my head and loaded the trailer onto my truck. No matter what, I wanted to get out of that place. The engine roared to life, and I eased onto Route 82. The night was quiet. Too quiet. The usual hum of distant traffic, the occasional coyote's howl, were gone. Even the wind seemed to avoid me. I glanced at the GPS. It was acting strangely, the route twisting in ways I didn't remember. But maybe it was a glitch. Fatigue can do that. Hours passed. My eyes were heavy, but I kept going. That's when I first heard it. A whisper. Faint, barely audible, but unmistakable. Drive. Don't stop. I slammed a hand to the horn. Nothing. My heart was pounding. I scanned the mirrors. Empty highway. Fog had rolled in thick, hugging the ground, creeping around my tires like liquid. I told myself it was my imagination. I've seen fog do weird things before. Keep driving. Then came the shadows. They weren't trees or road signs. They were figures, human-like but wrong. Limbs too long, heads tilting at impossible angles, standing at the edge of the road yet moving with me, keeping pace. My breath came in shallow bursts. I gripped the steering wheel, praying they weren't real. The crate in the trailer rattled violently. I yelped, swerving slightly. Something was inside, something alive, clawing at the wood, trying to get out. I slammed my hands against the wheel. The shadows multiplied, now crossing the road in front of me, then disappearing. The fog thickened, swallowing the road behind me. I tried the radio. Dead. Phone? No signal. Panic clawed at me. The road stretched endlessly, twisting into impossible angles. Signs that should have indicated mile markers were blank, replaced with symbols I didn't recognize. The night was alive, watching, waiting. Then the whisper became louder, harsher, echoing in the cab. "Drive, or we take you." I slammed my foot on the accelerator. The truck lunged forward. Tires screamed against the asphalt, but the road itself seemed to stretch endlessly. The figures followed, skimming just outside the beam of my headlights, faceless, silent, relentless. The crate shifted again, heavier this time. I swerved to avoid a shadow in the road, and the truck fishtailed. My heart was in my throat. I could hear scratching now, nails on metal inside the trailer. I knew if I stopped, whatever was inside would get me. Minutes, or maybe hours, later, I saw a faint light up ahead. A gas station? Impossible. I'd been on this stretch for what felt like an eternity, but as I approached, the shadows receded, the fog thinning slightly. Relief washed over me, brief and fleeting. I pulled into the lot, breath shaking, hands slick with sweat. But as I stepped out, the engine quiet, I realized something terrifying. The crate in the back of the trailer was gone. Just empty metal. I backed up, scanning the lot, but nothing. No sign of movement, no sound. The clerk at the gas station looked at me like I was crazy when I asked about the crate. "No shipments came through here," he said. "Nothing unusual." The road outside was empty. Normal. Everything was as it should have been. I wanted to laugh, to tell myself I imagined it. But the whisper, it lingered. I could hear it even now, faint when I'm alone. And the shadows. Sometimes I see them out of the corner of my eye, especially at night. Since that night, I've never driven alone after midnight. The highway has changed for me. Every foggy stretch, every empty mile carries the memory of that crate, those whispers, and the shadows that shouldn't exist. And deep down, I know one thing. One day, I will stop. And the crate, whatever it really was, will find me. Drive, or we will come for you. I keep driving. I have no choice. I've been driving trucks for nearly 20 years. I've seen all kinds of weather, road hazards, and the strange, lonely stretches of highway that seem to swallow people whole. But nothing I've experienced compares to what happened on that last run. The run that should have been routine. The run that turned my life into a nightmare I still can't shake. It started with a call from dispatch late on a Thursday evening. Pick up at the old Harris warehouse, Road 47, midnight, priority shipment. Be careful, okay? The voice on the other end sounded strained, almost fearful, but I didn't think much of it. I'd been on the road long enough to know that dispatchers sometimes get tense over nothing. By the time I arrived at the warehouse, the sun had already dipped below the horizon, leaving nothing but a pale smear of twilight. The building itself was a hulking skeleton of concrete and rusted steel. Broken windows reflected the fading light like blind eyes. The lot was littered with debris, weeds, and the occasional rusted-out vehicle. Not exactly the safest place for a high-priority shipment, but the paperwork checked out. I climbed out of the truck, the gravel crunching under my boots, and approached the trailer waiting to be loaded. It was a refrigerated unit, older, with patches of rust but mechanically sound. There was no one there. No forklifts, no staff, not even a flickering light except for a weak bulb above the entrance. The air smelled of cold metal and decay, and I felt a twinge of unease I tried to shake off. The trailer doors groaned as I opened them, revealing the cargo inside. A single, heavy wooden crate. Odd, I thought. The shipment paperwork said multiple crates. This one was sealed, unmarked. I leaned closer, and that's when I noticed it. Scratch marks along the top, as if something had been trying to claw its way out. I shook my head. Probably rats. But the scratching didn't stop. My stomach turned as I realized the sound was coming from inside the crate. It was soft at first, almost tentative, like the nails of a small animal against wood, but it grew louder, more insistent, more human. "Yeah, right," I muttered to myself. "Just your imagination." I loaded the crate onto the trailer, locked the doors, and climbed into the cab. The engine hummed to life, warm air spilling through the vents. I rolled out of the lot, trying to shake off the feeling that I was being watched. The highway was empty. Too empty. No other vehicles, no distant lights, no hum of civilization. The GPS glitched as soon as I hit the road, displaying routes that twisted in impossible ways. But I pressed on. Hours of driving were ahead, and I had a deadline. Then the whisper started. "Drive. Don't stop." I froze, gripping the wheel. My hands were clammy. The sound was faint, almost inaudible over the engine, but unmistakable. It came from everywhere and nowhere, all at once. I glanced at the trailer in the side mirror. Nothing, of course, just the cold metal box. I tried the CB radio, hoping someone else would answer, but static was all I got. My phone, dead, no signal. My heart pounded. Fog rolled in thickly, curling around the tires, obscuring the road. And then I saw them. Shadows. Human-shaped, but wrong. Limbs too long, torsos bent at impossible angles. They stayed just at the edge of the headlights, moving alongside the truck, never stopping, never blinking. My breath hitched. The crate rattled in the back, loudly, violently. Something inside was clawing at the walls, pounding from within. My stomach lurched. I slammed my foot on the accelerator. "Drive, or we take you." The whisper was louder now, echoing inside the cab, inside my skull. I pressed on, eyes wide, scanning the road. The highway bent and twisted in ways that made no sense. Mile markers disappeared. Signs were blank or covered in strange symbols. Snow began to fall despite the forecast, thick and wet, clinging to the windshield. Figures ran across the road, their faces featureless voids. I swerved, tires screeching, narrowly missing them. The crate shifted again, slamming to one side. My hands shook uncontrollably. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. Time became meaningless. The fog never lifted. The road stretched endlessly. My fuel gauge dropped rapidly despite driving conservatively. And then, out of the gray mist, I saw it. A bridge. An old steel bridge spanning a dark river. The structure was rusted, the boards warped. The railings bent outward, as if something had tried to break through. I hesitated. Something about it felt wrong. But I had no choice. The crate's pounding intensified, the whisper screaming now, deafening. I drove onto the bridge. The boards groaned under the weight of the truck. I looked into the mirrors. Shadows were everywhere, writhing in the fog, reaching up as if to grab me. The crate began to shake violently, and then, I swear, I saw movement inside, a hand, pale, clawing at the wood, pressing against the walls from within. I slammed the brakes. The truck skidded, tires screeching, metal grinding against rusted steel. But it didn't stop. Not completely. The bridge swayed beneath me, and I realized with horror that it was bending, twisting, impossibly long. The river below wasn't water. It was black, viscous, reflecting faces, screaming faces, writhing in agony. Drive, or join us. I slammed my foot on the gas, tears streaming down my face. The truck surged forward, bouncing over warped boards. The crate burst open. I froze. Inside, nothing. Just darkness. Nothing moved. The pounding had stopped. The whispers, gone. The fog lifted, revealing a straight, empty highway, normal looking. Sunlight filtered weakly through clouds. The bridge, the shadows, the river, all gone. I pulled over, shaking. My hands were raw from gripping the wheel. I dared not open the back of the trailer. When I finally looked, the crate was empty. No sign of what had been inside. No fingerprints, no claw marks, no residue. Just a normal, empty wooden crate. I drove the rest of the way in silence, never speaking to anyone. Dispatch had no record of anything unusual. The paperwork checked out perfectly. No one believed me. And yet, at night, when the road is empty and the fog rolls in, I can still hear it. A whisper, soft, insistent, impossible to ignore. Drive, or we will come for you. I've never stopped driving. I've kept my headlights on every mile, every hour, because I know the truth. One day, if I ever stop, whatever was in that crate will catch up to me. Until then, I keep moving, always moving. I've been driving trucks for nearly 20 years, and I thought I'd seen it all. Torn up roads, endless storms, near misses with deer and drunk drivers, even the occasional weird hitchhiker. But nothing could have prepared me for what happened on that night. That night on Route 213, a road I'd traveled dozens of times became a nightmare I still can't escape. It started like any other late-night run. I was hauling a refrigerated shipment from Michigan to Idaho, a long, lonely stretch of interstate through forests, rivers, and small towns that never seemed to end. The call came in late, voice sharp and tense. Pickups at the old Clayton lot, mile marker 112, midnight sharp, priority shipment, the dispatcher said. There was a pause, a whisper I thought I imagined. Be careful, all right? I shrugged it off. I've been on the road long enough to know that dispatchers sometimes get jittery. Midnight was fine. I liked the quiet, the hum of the engine, the solitude. By the time I arrived, the lot was empty, gray under a half moon that barely peeked through clouds. The warehouse was ancient, its windows broken, steel doors rusted shut. Gravel crunched under my boots as I approached the trailer. One lone refrigerated unit waited. Cold metal, faint frost forming along the edges. No one was around. No lights except a flickering bulb above the door, swaying in the wind. Inside, a single crate sat. Heavy. Wooden. No markings, nothing to indicate what it contained. Odd, I thought, since the paperwork mentioned a full shipment of similar crates. I leaned closer and noticed scratch marks along the edges, fresh and shallow. I shook my head. Rats, maybe. But then, faintly, I heard something else. A scratching, soft, deliberate, coming from inside the crate. I froze. My hands gripped the crate handle. Nothing made sense. The sound didn't match anything I knew. It was alive. Something inside was moving. Something was trying to get out. Just your imagination, I muttered, though my voice sounded hollow in the empty lot. I hooked the trailer to my truck, climbed in, and started down the highway. The engine hummed, warmth spilling from the vents. The road was empty. Too empty. No other vehicles, no distant lights, just the faint rustle of wind. I glanced at the GPS. It had gone haywire, showing a twisting route that didn't match the road. I ignored it. Fatigue can make anyone paranoid. Hours passed, or maybe minutes. Time became meaningless. And then I heard it, a whisper, soft and chilling, coming from everywhere and nowhere. Drive. Don't stop. I slammed my hand on the horn. Silence. My eyes darted to the mirrors. Nothing. Just the crate in the trailer, cold metal and wood. The fog rolled in suddenly, thick and viscous, curling around the tires like smoke. Shadows appeared at the edges of the headlights. At first, I thought they were trees. Then, I saw them move. Figures, humanoid but wrong, limbed in ways that no human should be limbed. Faces, featureless, pale, moving in rhythm with the truck, keeping pace. My pulse hammered. The crate rattled violently in the back. My stomach lurched. Something inside was alive, clawing, pounding at the walls. I slammed my foot on the accelerator. Drive, or we take you. The whisper grew louder, echoing inside the cab and inside my skull. The road itself seemed to bend, twist, impossible curves forming in the fog. Mile markers disappeared. Signs were blank, replaced with symbols that made my skin crawl. Snow began falling, thick and wet, though the forecast hadn't predicted a storm. Figures darted across the road. I swerved to avoid them, tires screaming on slick asphalt. The crate slammed again, bouncing from side to side. My hands shook uncontrollably. I was trapped, a prisoner of some impossible force I couldn't name. Hours or minutes later, a faint light appeared ahead. A gas station? Impossible. I had been on this stretch for eternity. The shadows seemed to vanish as I approached, slipping away like smoke. Relief washed over me, but it was brief. I pulled into the lot, heart racing, body trembling. The crate was gone. Just an empty trailer. No scratches, no traces, nothing. I stepped out, hoping for some explanation. There was none. The clerk looked at me as though I'd lost my mind. "No deliveries came through here tonight," he said. "Everything looks normal." I tried to convince myself it was exhaustion, hallucination, a combination of fatigue and road monotony. But deep down, I knew the truth. Whatever was in that crate hadn't left me. It was still out there, watching, waiting. Since that night, I've never driven alone after midnight. Every foggy mile, every empty stretch of highway brings a shiver. The whisper follows me. I hear it in my dreams faintly, urging me to drive. And I know, one day if I ever stop, it will catch me. I keep moving, always moving, because the last thing that whisper said before vanishing forever was the truth I can't escape. Drive, or we will come for you. Even now when I'm alone, headlights cutting through the fog, I can feel it. Waiting, always behind, always near. And I know that no matter how far I drive, some roads never end. Thank you for staying until the end. Hit like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more horror.